Welcome. This is Flosstube number 13. I'm Naomi with the channel Bell Stitches Pirates. This is a channel about primarily cross stitch, although I have a wide variety of crafts that I'm interested in, and so occasionally there will be, I haven't done a lot of cross stitch because I've been working on this, or finish something, start something. But the focus is primarily cross stitch, and that's what we'll be covering today. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoy this video. It is pretty close to 2 weeks since I filmed last. Last week things were crazy. This week things look like they might be crazy again. And I got home today and it was like, oh, I can do this. So here we are. Tomorrow is my mother-in-law's birthday, so this weekend is going to be interesting. My husband works tomorrow. It's his long day. Every other Saturday he gets a short day. Short meaning 8 hours instead of 12. So it's his long day, and we're going to go to dinner on Sunday to celebrate her birthday, and then it was, no, we're going to have it at my brother-in-law's on Saturday, and now it's back to Sunday again. We'll see what actually happens. Too many planners planning this thing. The topic of this video is primarily going to be my March Madness results. My last video we got all the way through the first round of March Madness, the first 8 days, and we did the first winner of the first and the second bracket. And I have since completed bracket 1. I originally planned to do an extreme version of March Madness where I had a bracket basically every day. I completed the first bracket, the first 8 projects, got them all whittled all the way down to a single project. And then bracket 2 was supposed to start. I picked up the first project that was on bracket 2, and I had limited stitching that day, so I barely got any stitches in, and I just didn't satisfy my interest in that piece, and so that's all I've been stitching on for the last week. So anyway, we will get to the stitching in a minute. I want to do a few shout outs. I've been binge watching Midsummer Murders. I have managed to get, I started season 11 last night. But in between binge watching Midsummer Murders, I have watched Flosstube. And so I have some shout outs. The first one is Mad Morti. She, and I believe it's her partner, she and her partner film about once a month. And their most recent episode, which I watched, was Ducks and Dragons. So her husband partner, I need to verify whether it's her husband or her partner, he stitches, and his current primary whip is a dragon piece with a Celtic border, and then he's starting one called Celtic Bees, or Celtic Bee. And I was watching, more listening than watching, doing things while I have it on. And I heard Celtic and my head went whoop. Instant distraction. And they're just, they are absolutely hilarious. They're from Cornwall, and she's working on a piece about, I didn't catch if it was titled Field of Ducks or there's something related to ducks. And so thus the title of their episode, Ducks and Dragons. But their humor, they riff off of each other, and it's just an enjoyable watch. And I also caught I Swear I Am Stitching's latest episode, and she shouted me out from my shout out last time. So thank you for the shout out. I appreciate it, and it's always a pleasure to hear your channel's name on someone else's channel as you're listening and watching and admiring. I also in the last couple weeks watched Niecie Lynn. Actually this morning had her playing. She's a great one to turn on and just have chattering while I work in my way through my pile of emails in the morning, and going through my emails and figuring out, prioritizing them, putting tasks on the task list, updating the calendar for I'm an administrative assistant for a law firm, and so court notices I'm opening things and scanning. Is it got calendar dates in it that I have to put in the calendar for the attorneys? Do I need to assign a task that's for myself or for the paralegal? Checking things to see where does it go. And it doesn't require loads and loads of brain function to do that, in terms of I'm prioritizing, I'm categorizing things. And then once I've got my to-do list put together, then sometimes they requires focus. But during that email, okay, interruption by phone call. And I still haven't put the phone on silent or do not disturb. We'll see how this goes. I think I was in the middle of talking about Niecie Lynn and listening to her latest video during work. Anyway, during her video, she was talking about a friend or somebody who commented on one of her videos when she was particularly vocal about boys, and teenage boys in particular, and their unique, unpleasant smell. And my nephew, being 15, my ears perked up. Getting him to use deodorant every day is a struggle. And it's apparently very common with boys of across the board. A comedian spoke about it in one of his specials about 10 years ago, about his son and the struggle to get him to use his deodorant stick. Anyway, this person shared with her that the odor is indicative of a deficiency in zinc, and giving zinc supplements can assist in helping us be able to be around them. And I work with my sister, so I turned to her and I said, Niecie says that someone told her. Maybe you should give him some zinc supplements to see if that helps. Long story short, the tips and tidbits get passed along. Another Flosstuber I watched was Coffee, Wine, and Stitching Time. She did an unboxing of the latest Black Needle Society box, the Steampunk box. I was planning on it. It's my first Black Needle Society box. I will insert a picture here. My box looked like it was beaten black and blue. It was battered and bruised. The cardboard felt squishy, so I think it got wet at some point. It was so crushed that it has had the flap that slides in like a pizza box. I think it's a pizza box. You've probably seen them. The boxes that have the little tabs that you put the lid down, and then the side you have the little tabs that you slot in to help the lid stay down. It was a box like that. The lid side was the side that got mangled, got crunched. And so after I carefully got it to open, I couldn't close it again. The box is in the recycling can because there's no salvaging anything of that box. So I'm not going to do a unboxing, but I will put a big old spoiler when I get to showing you what I got as part of my haul. Haul will be at the very, very end, and I'll say, hey, if you don't want to see this. But just a heads up, I got the Steampunk box, and it's gonna be part of haul. So if you wanna see a unboxing, she did a very nice one. Cynthia Brew, Stitching in the Light. I love her speaking voice. Now I'm all discombobulated thanks to that phone call. It's just my sister calling to tell me what's going on with her dog. He's at the vet's right now and she's bored and needs somebody to talk to. So Cynthia, she's got a very... It's not even relaxing per se. She's just got a very soothing and calm speaking voice, but it's not a monotone. And I should know, my sister was attending seminars for work today, and so I was hearing the speakers. And yeah, there were some speakers who did not have any inflection in their voice. It was soporific. They were putting me to sleep. And it was a topic that we should be interested in. It's related to our work. No. It was difficult to pay attention to them because they have a very flatline voice. And then my newest Flosstuber is Tiny House Stitcher. And she genuinely has a tiny house that she lives in and works from with her dog. And her dog's not a little tiny dog. I'd say her dog looks like it's a medium-ish dog. Small, medium. It's probably about the size of my sister's pit bull. And he can do more damage in wiping tabletops and knocking things over than my sister's German Shepherd, even though my sister's German Shepherd's tail is very dangerous. Because the pit bull is smaller, he has managed usually to barrel under desks or, you know, knock things over because he can get into tighter, smaller spaces. And all of a sudden things are crashing. So big doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to knock things over. Attention span definitely indicates it. But she did a photo tour of her tiny home in her first video, and she's doing a number of samplers. She also does some genealogy. She talked about it a little bit. She talked about how she has a craft space in a tiny home. And I'm looking forward to seeing more information on that. California, the home prices are astronomical. And so I'm always on the lookout for how can I maximize my spaces in the most affordable space available, which in California generally isn't a very big space. So, you know, having somebody who's got a tiny home and a pet and an office space and crafting space and, you know, quilting takes up space. You gotta be able to have a decent sized table to do quilting. And so I'm really excited to see what she puts out in the future. Specifically how she, you know, how her space works for the more space consuming projects that you can encounter as a crafter. So let's get into the stitching now that I've rambled on for probably 30 minutes. In March, I did March Madness, and I planned to do 2 brackets. I did 1. So the first bit is going to be the second and third rounds of, of the brackets. So the first piece that I worked on, when I finished on my last video, I was doing the winner from the first little bracket, which was a Mill Hill kit, and it was up against this piece, Brooke's Books, Spirit of America. And when I first started it, the first session with this, I had just done the blue up here. All I had done was some blue, and I think I had gotten to like right there. So I did all of this, and I did this side, and I got started on the red striping of the underskirt. And I did a massive amount on the Mill Hill kit. So needless to say, even though that's a lot of stitches, she still lost out to the Mill Hill kit. But that's my Brooke's Books work my way. I have a pile of Brooke's Books patterns, bunch of angels, bunch of animals for ornaments and things like that. And so I am fully anticipating just having one in rotation. One that if I'm bored, need something small to take with me, I can just grab that. The perforated paper, the Mill Hill kits, the Brooks books on perforated paper are really easy for me to have in a small bag and just grab and go. So I keep a pair of scissors and my flosses in a small bag, and it's a paper chart, so a highlighter. I have clickable highlighters, so I keep a kind of a travel kit. And the only thing I don't do while I'm out and about is beading. Beading is strictly at home. So, she in the Mill Hill kit will be my grab it and go piece. I probably will grab her on Sunday and take her with me to deal with, or to have something to do. Then the next piece that was up was Incomparable. And this is a Forbidden Fiber Company kit. I had the house mystery box based off of Bridgerton. So when I got it, all I knew was that it was a mystery box with the theme of Bridgerton's. And the pattern's called Incomparable. At the beginning of March, the house was completely done. And the first time it came up in the brackets, I did the leaves on the tree. And a teeny, I got started on the branches. I maybe had that bit done. So the second time it came up, I did all the tree, and then I got started I started working on the vine until I ran out of frame, and it was up against, let me put it down, it came up against the Steampunk Mermaid. I finished off, or I think, no, all I did on her was I had started the hair. I had to rip out a whole bunch of the hair because I got off by one. I think I added an extra row in here. Or, no, let's see, I came down this way and then I came back over here. Anyway, I added an extra row, and so it was going to be completely off. I couldn't figure out any way to fudge it without making future bits just even more insane. And that's going purple, not pink. It is very pink. So when I got done ripping out, I think I was over 100 stitches back from where I had started my session, and I had done 300-400 stitches. So I restitched a whole mess of her hair. But got a good chunk on her done. I mean, considering that she fits in this piece of fabric and there's basically the center, she's coming along. I plan to start going back in, and because this piece has a massive amount of back stitching, this is all complete the cross stitching, so start working my way, doing a bit of the back stitching, and then as I finish stitching pieces, start working my back stitching. So once I maybe get her face in, back stitch the hat, and just so that hopefully by the end I won't have oodles and boodles of back stitching that I don't want to do. So Incomparable was up against Steampunk Mermaid, Steampunk Mermaid Lost. Which puts us back to the winner of the perforated paper contest and Incomparable. So Luke had won out against Brooke's books, and he was on the last video. So I mostly did work on this section down here, finishing out the green on the robe, and did a good little chunk. There's still a ways of cross stitching to go, but I'd say 2-3 more sessions, and depending on how much time I spend on those sessions, and he'll be ready for beading. So he was up against Incomparable again, and this time I continued working on the vine, and then I stitched all the words and the bee, and there's a significance to bees in Bridgerton. And then I moved the frame and I stitched the rest of the words and continued on some of the vine. And so all I have left to do is to finish the border, which is pretty close, and then there's a couple that stands here, and so stitch the couple. But the quote's all done, the tree's all done, the house is all done. I'm at about 75%. The house was 49%. The only thing that I may go back and do for the house is this color right here, which it's actually that color. That's all stitched, but it really looks like it's not stitched. And so at least for the Widow's Walk on top of the house, I may go in and with, like, I don't know, a slightly darker, I'll have to play with it, pull threads and see what I like. I may go in and backstitch the pale color just around or backstitch around the house in its entirety, but definitely that railing, because it's just not popping. It's not visible unless there's colors around it. It's just a little too close to the color of the fabric. So I may go in and do some back stitching on that just to give it some definition so that you can actually tell that there is like a widow's walk up there. But so this piece made it all the way through from round 1 all the way to the end of the bracket, and got a good chunk, and it's just in time for them to announce for Forbidden Fiber Company to announce that they have another box based on the Bridgerton series. So season 2 of the Bridgertons came out on Netflix this year. I want to say February or early March. There's been a lot of buzz around it. Either that or it's coming out in the next month. Season 2 is coming to Netflix if it's not already there. And the first season focused on the eldest daughter, Daphne. Season 2 apparently is focusing primarily on the eldest son, Anthony, who's also the Viscount. So they have a box they're doing called Viscount. It's a Viscount Bridgerton inspired mystery box. It's going to have a pattern by the same designer that's a companion piece to this piece, and special threads. And so it's going to come with a piece of fabric. They have your choice of Aida or linen. And they're supposed to ship in April, early April. needless to say, I bought my box. I saw the email this afternoon. I bought my box. So I need to finish that piece so that I can stitch the companion piece sooner rather than later. Because it only took me like 5-6 months to get around to starting that one. Anyway. I have a tipping leaning tower piece over there. So then we have the piece that I tried to work on. I fell off the wagon on. This is a whip go piece that I also had in my March bracket, and I've been working my way, and I think the last time you saw it I had some but not all of this done, and I definitely didn't have this done. So it came up as the piece I chose to go with my March whip go prompt of stitch 50 stitches on a piece every day. And I chose this piece because A, I'm in a repeat, so grabbing it and doing 50 stitches and then setting it down isn't such a big deal. 50 stitches, give or take, is about 1 strand of thread, so comparable to doing a strand of thread. I managed 8 days so far. I'm a little behind. I was doing pretty good for about a week, picking it up every day and putting in 50 or 100 stitches. And then I picked up Poltergeist Pirates, which is the next piece, and that's all I've picked up ever since. So for the last week, hasn't gotten any love. So Poltergeist Pirates. Let me pull off the corner. And I'll put a picture. Won't necessarily be a great picture because it's probably going to be a picture of a frame. So the last time I worked on this, I think, was January, and I had the parrot done and the bow of the ship, and I had just started putting in the wave. So I have, since I picked it up last week, I have put in the shark and all that wave, and I've continued the wave over, and I had this mast was done. So all of this was done, but I still needed to put the cannons in, and the mouths of the cannons in. So I put the cannons in, and I've done this mast, and I'll give you a hint. I haven't checked to see if I can do settings. I'm sure I can, but settings on Pattern Keeper that would allow me to flip the pattern. But this is a paper chart, and so I didn't want to have to try to count up and try to figure out exactly where and be off 1 stitch and have to unstitch that whole mast. And I also didn't want to try, come on, there we go. I didn't want to try stitching my way up. I will stitch upwards if I'm just trying to like jump up a couple of rows, but to go from the bottom to the top on this one, it was just like my stitches don't always look as great when I'm stitching bottom to top, even though I'm getting them all to go the same way. Something about how I pull my thread taut they lay nicer when I'm going top to bottom than when I'm trying to stitch bottom to top. So to solve that problem, I flipped it around and I stitched top to bottom. And the thing of it is, as long as you switch 180 degrees, not 90, 180, you can stitch the same way you always stitch, and your stitches will be going in the same direction. Your top leg will still be going in the same direction as if you were stitching this way and had just counted here and started. So I stitched all of this. I believe that was already in. I don't recall stitching this, but I've stitched all of this, and I've done a bunch of the back stitching. As you can tell, this is the black is my back stitching the strand. I hit a point where I needed to insert some missing cross stitches, and so I stopped working on him. Yeah, it's coming out here, so I've got to put the rest of that bit in, so I can finish stitching that line of back stitching. But yeah, so I'm back stitching it as I go. Once I get from about here to just past here is the middle it's 3 pages wide, and so that's about the middle page. So 2 out of 3 of the pages will be done, and that's the bulk of the stitching. All of this is actually a separate page. So the waves are just like that much stitching, so they've got 2 sections on a page with information about like what color to back stitch and what set spots. Most of it's 310, but there are a few things, a few creatures, some instructions. There's some long straight just long strand for rigging that they have instructions on how to stitch that. So long and short, he's coming along. My husband is super excited. He's decided that I don't need to be given a hard time about not stitching his pirate monkey because I'm stitching his pirate ship. And I mean, my goal is to have him have this stitched and hopefully framed before his birthday. I started it on his birthday. Be cool to have it done by his birthday. And that's in November. So this maybe has 6 weeks of stitching in it. I stitched on it really intensely in December. Is it December? Might have been November when I started it, like 2 weeks solid. I didn't touch it at all in February, I don't think. I touched it a little bit in January. And then I've done a massive amount this month. And then last but not least, for whips, we have my not cross stitch whip, which is my first diamond painting project. And as you can tell, I've sectioned it off, and each section, give or take, takes me anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half to work on. So I just work on it for a while, every couple of days. It's not something that I can easily take and do in my living room where I do most of my stitching with my husband. So I don't tend to work on it on the days that he's home, just because then he's constantly popping into my craft room where I work on it and going, "What are you doing? When are you coming out to hang out with me?" So it's taking me a little while because I'm only doing it on the days that he works, but and some of the confetti spots actually take a little bit longer. So like that was a spot and that took probably closer to 2 hours. I put a movie on and just paint away. And it's really therapeutic, and I can see why people really enjoy it. It's not going to take the place of cross stitch, I don't think, but I can see it being something that I have one going at a time, almost as a break from cross stitch. Just put this down over here, which leads us into haul. I have minimal haul. So I told you about the Forbidden Fiber company's newest Bridgerton box that was announced today. And I don't know how long they'll last, but I'll put a link in the description box so that you can get to the page, and hopefully get one. And then the other thing that I got was, I was on a video by Kansas City girl in a Colorado world. Also, I think she designs under Hemlock and Rye is her designer name. So she made an announcement, and you can go look at her video on it, and I'll link that one as well. But she designed this piece in conjunction with someone else, and I don't recall her name. I didn't write it down. And so it's based off of traditional cottages, and like I said, she goes into all the details of like how they came up with the idea, and the proceeds are going to go to benefit groups helping Ukrainian people either get them supplies, medical, she tells you where the proceeds are going to go. But she and her friend collaborated on the idea. The quote is a Ukrainian quote. The house is based off of traditional Ukrainian homes. And somewhere in their conversation, the idea was dropped of, what if the bird's a lot bigger than the house? Large bird, tiny house. She does it on a pay what you want basis with a minimum recommendation of $5. $5, cute pattern, instant download, and it's going to assist in relief efforts. It's going to get stitched sooner rather than later. And with that, if you would like to sign off so that you don't get the sneak peek of the Black Needle Society Steampunk box, then this is when you need to sign off. I am looking forward to reaching 500 subscribers. I went to post a note, a little notice with a picture saying, hey, Flosstube's probably going to be late this week. And I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I'm Googling and found out that to do the community announcements, you have to have 500 subscribers. So the goal is going to be 500 subscribers so that I can post announcements. And when we reach that point, we'll do another giveaway. And if you have any requests for tutorials or things that you would like me to show with more detail, let me know. I'm happy to do either a tutorial on various various topics, or if it's, how to use Pattern Keeper, or swapping out colors in projects, or picking colors, or any of that. If you want more in-depth on a specific piece, more close-ups, I'm happy to do that. If you've got ideas on other things that I haven't mentioned in the past that you'd like me to show, demonstrate, add into the discussions on each project each week, let me know. I don't have a clear plan for April yet. I'm probably just going to go with whatever I feel like stitching at that particular time. But next week's April. Yeah. So with that, if you don't want to see the Steampunk sneak peek, I will say goodbye. And for the rest of you, here is the Black Needle Society Steampunk box. Because the box was a disaster, they're not little, they're 14.6 cups. I got them at my dollar store, but they're plastic containers. They're big enough to hold an 8.5 by 11, just barely. They hold a sheet of paper, but what I do is I use them to put together various projects. So project bags, if I am cutting a bunch of fabric, then I fold the project bag pieces together in a bundle, and they fold up nice enough that they kind of fit two across, and I can just stack them. And so I can put all the pieces of a set into a folded pile, and then come back later and put all the zippers. And when I have the vinyl cut and I'm ready to start putting them together, then I can parse them out. But I've found that they're a nice size, they fit well on my shelves, and they let me collect the bits and bobs that I need to prepare projects for finishing. So the box came with a handy dandy guide. It gave some information on the inspiration, as well as where did various items come from. So the inspiration came from the Finishing School series by Gail Carriger. And then she has the Parasol Protectorate is, so the Finishing School is young adult series, and the Parasol Protectorate is considered an adult series. But all the books are set in the steampunk era, or steampunk world, which is basically Victorian meets mechanical. Invention, age of invention, Victorian era. So gears are really popular in steampunk. So we have a pencil project case, and I used it to collect all the small bits and bobs. Came with a fabric measure, and it's got, you can't see it very well. It's got 14, 16, 18, and 20 count on there, with the corresponding linen counts, which is 28, 32, 36, and 40. So your 40 count, and I haven't tested this, but theoretically it should be every other hole. The line matches up. But, you know, nice handy dandy little card. Keep it in your wallet. Then Almond M&Ms had 4 little flosses. This one is Sherlock. This one is Hugo. This one is Nautilus. This one is Gears. And a needle minder. Come on, focus. Says the League of Extraordinary Stitchers. So a riff off of a League of Extraordinary Men. I can see the movie in my head. I'm not sure that that's 100% the right name. A floss ring with a dirigible. And floss cards. Hang on. It's a young lady with binoculars, balloon, corset and a watch or clock. That's got a dirigible in the background, and it looks like a mechanical octopus. And then mechanical horse, flying horse to boot. Pegasus, man with a mechanical eye patch, monkey, and clocks. Looks like a flying carriage. Chandelier, a mechanical butterfly. Those are very cute. So those are the little bits and bobs in the Steam Stitcher box. Then it came with a wheel organizer that's got gears. My husband's put together a bunch of these very complex ones, one of which was like a train. I think it was an engine and a caboose. Might have had a third, might have had a carriage too. So I'm excited to put this together and see how well it works. But it's meant to hold pens and pencils and things like that. Fabric, 16 count gunmetal Ada. Hate the Viard. Two notebooks, contrivances, and inventions. And contrivances is dot, you can't see it, it's dot paper. And then inventions, this you can see, is graph paper. And then last, but certainly not least, is Superior Bees. It's 92 by 104, and it's got 3 colors in it. It's charted for Gloriana, but it has a DMC conversion, and it's black, cream, and gold. Very cool. So for a first Black Needle Society box, despite the beating it took by the post office, everything survived. Nothing was damaged. Nothing was damp. That was my biggest worry. The outside of the box is wet. Or, you know, feels wet. It feels squishy. Like wet cardboard. And yet, despite all that, nothing was damaged. Everything was in good shape. And I am really excited. I like the steampunk era. I like all my little trinkets, and there's nothing in here that I won't use at some point. The notebooks I'll use, the floss ring I'll use, the floss cards I'll use. I'll incorporate the flosses into something. And the pattern is adorable. And even I will say Ada is not really my thing. I'm not crazy about Ada. But I will hang on to it for at least a little while. And if I won't use it, my sister does like Ada. And if she makes a comment about thinking of, you know, needing something, she doesn't stitch as actively as I do. But she does stitch. And she likes to be a monogamous stitcher, which is fine. But when she needs fabric, she tends, especially if she's looking for something other than white, she tends to come raid my house first. If she needs flosses, she tends to come see if I've got it first. Because I'm like, here's my stash. Go through it. Let me know what you want. And honestly, if I've bought something for a specific item, a specific project, it's not in the stash. I don't mark it as this may be for Project X. It goes in a project bag. It stays separate from the stash. So when I'm kitting up, if I have the thread in the master box and I'm pulling flosses, that floss is available to use. Whether it's a fancy floss or just straight up DMC, it's available to use if it is in the box. So, and the same with my fabric. If it's in the fabric stash, then it's available to use for whatever project. So this will stick around for a while. I may use it, I may not. I do use Ada. I just don't use it very often. I like linen. I like even weave more than linen. And if I'm going to use an Ada type product, and I say Ada type product, I tend to go for the hard hanger. I like the smaller stitches. 16 count's not bad. I skew towards 32 count and 36 count. I have a bunch of pieces that are on 28 because I started out getting 28, and so I started them on 28, so I'll finish them on 28. But once I get through my 28 stash, I'm skewing more towards the 32s and 36s, and I even have done a couple little pieces on 40. There was a Flosstube that talked about doing a lot of stuff on 40 and being encouraged to try 56. And I was like, I can't see myself doing 56. Like, I don't have a hard time seeing 40 count. It's just, and it's probably because I haven't used it very often. I don't find it as rewarding. I find that it takes me longer to do something on 40 count, and I don't enjoy it as much. So we'll see. We will see. I may use this piece of fabric, I may not, but that's the only thing that I don't see myself immediately being able to put to use. The wheel organizer, I see myself being able to, once it's put together, being able to use that. And the pouch is amazing. I'm already technically using it because it's holding all the little bits and bobs. So yeah, for a first time box, this is pretty spectacular. And I have more boxes coming. I'm looking forward to the Dragons box. I'm looking forward to the Hogwarts box. There's another one that I've got, and I don't remember I don't remember what the subject of it is. I'd have to go look. But long and short, despite the neglect of the post office, everything arrived in good condition, and I'm very happy with this box. So with that, I will say goodbye and edit this and hopefully get it up tonight. See you soon.